In the packed Philadelphia courtroom where justice teetered on the edge of a routine sentencing, the judge's gavel cracked down with a life sentence for a 17-year-old black teen caught in a drug sting, until the boy, unflinching, pulled out his phone and dialed his father, the U.S. Attorney General, whose voice thundered through the speaker, shattering the room's complacency and exposing a web of prosecutorial overreach that would topple careers and rewrite federal guidelines on juvenile justice. Jamal Whitaker had always navigated life with a quiet intensity that belied his age. At 17, he was a junior at Central High School in Philadelphia, where he maintained a 3.8 GPA in advanced placement courses, captained the debate team, and volunteered weekends at a South Philly community center tutoring younger kids in math. His father, Elias Whitaker, had instilled in him a profound respect for the law, drawing from his own improbable rise, a civil rights lawyer from the Project of Baltimore who, after clerking for Thurgood Marshall's successor on the Supreme Court, prosecuted high-profile corruption cases under 2 administrations before President Loren Hayes nominated him as the 87th U.S. Attorney General in 2022. Elias, 52, was the first black AG since Eric Holder, his tenure marked by aggressive pushes for police reform and antitrust actions against big tech. But Elias kept his family shielded from the spotlight. Jamal's existence was a closely guarded secret, known only to a handful of aides and Elias's wife, Dr. Nia Whitaker, a tenured professor of constitutional law at Penn. Jamal's entanglement with the law began innocently enough, or so it seemed. In March 2024, during a school field trip to a career fair at the convention center, he struck up a conversation with a charismatic vendor named Rico, who claimed to sell supplements for athletes. Rico, 25, was actually an undercover ATF informant working a multi-agency sting targeting youth involvement in opioid distribution. He slipped Jamal a sample vial, later tested as laced with fentanyl, and asked him to hold it while he stepped away for a call. Jamal, trusting and naive, pocketed it without a second thought. When Rico returned with backup agents, they arrested Jamal on the spot, charging him with possession with intent to distribute a Schedule I substance, a federal felony carrying a mandatory minimum of life without parole under the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act's 3 strikes provision. Jamal's strikes, inflated by 2 prior juvenile citations for truancy and a shoplifting warning at 14. The case moved swiftly through the system. Assistant U.S. Attorney Derek Langford, 39, a rising star in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania's office with ambition for a congressional run, saw the arrest as a career booster, a high-profile bust of a gang-affiliated teen in a city plagued by overdoses. Langford's team buried the entrapment angle, coaching Rico to testify that Jamal had eagerly sought the drugs for resale. Jamal's public defender, overburdened attorney Carla Ruiz, met with him only twice before trial, advising a plea that would shave years off but still land him decades. The feds don't lose these, she warned. Nia, bound by Elias's insistence on no special treatment, let him fight like every kid does, hired private counsel quietly, but kept it off the record, coaching Jamal through late-night strategy sessions on constitutional defenses. Trial unfolded over 3 days in courtroom 12B of the James A. Byrne U.S. Courthouse, a federal behemoth of glass and steel overlooking Independence Hall. Judge Harlan Thorpe, 61, a Reagan appointee known for tough-on-crime rulings, presided with demeanor as unyielding as the marble columns. Thorpe had handed down 47 life sentences in drug cases during his tenure, often citing deterrence in his opinions. The jury, 8 white, 3 black, 1 Latino, deliberated for 4 hours before convicting Jamal on all counts. Sentencing was set for May 15, 2024, with Langford pushing for the maximum, life, no parole. On that humid spring morning, the courtroom swelled with spectators. Prosecutors in sharp suits, a smattering of Jamal's classmates busted by Nia, and reporters from the Inquirer sniffing a story on Philly's youth crime wave. Jamal entered in street clothes, a gray hoodie and jeans, flanked by bailiffs, his wrists cuffed but his posture straight, echoing the military baron Elias had taught him from summers at Quantico. Nia sat in the front row, her face a mask of composure, fingers twisting a handkerchief. Ruiz shuffled papers at the defense table, her plea for leniency reduced to a murmur about Jamal's clean record and college prospects. Langford rose first, his voice booming with rehearsed gravitas. Your Honor, the defendant, Jamal Whitaker, was apprehended with 2.3 grams of fentanyl in a public venue teeming with minors. This isn't a one-off. His juvenile history shows a pattern of disregard for authority. Intelligence links him to the East Side Kings, a crew responsible for 14 overdoses last quarter. Life imprisonment sent a message. No mercy for those poisoning our streets. Thorpe nodded, jotting notes, his glasses perched low on his nose. Ruiz countered feebly. Jamal's a student, Your Honor. First-time adult offense. He's no kingpin, just a kid in the wrong place. The mandatory minimum is cruel and unusual under the Eighth Amendment. Precedents from Graham versus Florida demand consideration for youth. The judge steepled his fingers, scanning the room. Ms. Ruiz, this court respects precedent, but Congress set these minima for a reason. The defendant's age doesn't erase the harm. I reviewed the PSR, solid academics, yes, but the risk is too great. He turned to Jamal, who stood silent, eyes forward. Mr. Whitaker, anything say before I pronounce? Jamal swallowed, his heart hammering. Months of whispered strategy with Nia flashed through his mind. If it comes to this, son, speak your truth. But remember, the system's rigged. Fight smart. He glanced at her, catching the subtle nod. Then, in a voice steady beyond his years, he said, Your Honor, I didn't do what they say. But if this is justice, call my dad. He'll explain. A titter rippled through the gallery. Nervous laughter from the press row. Langford smirked, whispering to his second chair. Thorpe raised an eyebrow. Your father? The record shows a single mother, Dr. Neil Whitaker, as guardian. This isn't the time for theatrics, young man. Jamal met the judge's gaze unflinchingly, a spark his father's fire igniting. Call him anyway. Elias Whitaker. Tell him his son's in your courtroom, getting life. The name landed like a grenade. Thorpe's pen froze midair. Langford's smirk vanished, his face paling as recognition dawned. Nia straightened, her eyes locking on Jamal with pride and a flicker of fear. The bailiff shifted uncomfortably. Whispers erupted. Elias Whitaker, the AG. A reporter fumbled for her phone, lip tweeting furiously. Thorpe cleared his throat, his voice tighter than before. Mr. Whitaker, if this is an attempt to intimidate. It's not, Jamal interrupted. The first breach of decorum that made Thorpe's jaw clench. It's fact. Dial 202-555, AG1. Speakerphone. Now. The room held its breath. Thorpe, a stickler for procedure but sensing the seismic shift, nodded to the clerk. Proceed, but this had better not be a stunt. The clerk punched a number, the line ringing echoingly through the courtroom speakers. On the third ring, a familiar baritone answered. This is Elias Whitaker. Who's calling? Mr. Attorney General. The clerk stammered. This is U.S. District Court, Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Judge Harlan Thorpe presiding. Your son, Jamal, is before us on sentencing. Silence stretched. Then Elias's voice exploded. Calm but laced with steel, a tone that had quelled Senate hearings and cowed cartel lawyers. Sentencing? For what? Put him on speaker. Now. And Judge, you have exactly 2 minutes to explain why my son, a minor with no priors, faces life in federal prison. Gasps cascaded through the benches. Langford bolted upright, his second chair tugging his sleeve frantically. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Overruled, Thorpe snapped, his face flushing. The clerk patched Elias through fully, his presence filling the room like an uninvited sovereign. Elias, Mr. Attorney General, Jamal Whitaker stands convicted of possession with intent, fentanyl. Mandatory life under the 86 Act. His counsel raised you factors, but life. Elias's incredulity cut like a blade. For a 17-year-old high schooler? Judge Thorpe, I've read your opinions. You're no fan of minima. Yet here we are. Who prosecuted? Langford? Derek Langford, the one gunning for Congress on a lock Emma platform? Langford paled further, rising shakily. Mr. Attorney General, this is a sealed case. How did you? No. Elias's laugh was mirthless. I'm the AG, Derek. I know everything. And this? This reeks. Entrapment by an informant with a history of targeting black youth. Rico Valdez, right? Paid $50,000 last year for 12 busts. All kids like Jamal. You buried the exculpatory Brady material. Jamal's school records, his volunteer logs, the fact he was on a field trip. That's misconduct, plain and simple. The courtroom buzz, reporters typing madly. Nia stood, her voice steady. Elias, they coached the witness. Jamal held the vial for 90 seconds. Undercover's own body cam shows it. Elias's tone sharpened to prosecutorial edge. Judge, vacate the conviction. Now, or I'll have the OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, here by noon, auditing every case Langford's touched. And Derek, your bar referral's in jeopardy. This isn't justice. It's a quota grab. Thorpe, cornered, banged his gavel once. More for show than order. Mr. Attorney General, this is unprecedented. The jury convicted. Untainted evidence. Elias interjected. Pull the file. Jamal's my son, yes. But treat him like any kid, and you'll see the farce. He's debate captain, bound for UPenn pre-law. Not a dealer. Release him to my custody, pending review. I'll testify if needed, but this ends today. Langford, sweat beading, stammered a recess request. Denied. The gallery erupted in murmurs. Classmates cheering softly. A prosecutor in the back row shaking his head. Thorpe, his tough facade cracking under federal scrutiny, leaned into Mike Bailiff. Uncuffed the defendant. Sentencing is stayed. Motion to vacate granted. Pending full hearing. Mr. Whitaker, Jamal, you're free to go with your mother. Jamal, uncuffed, hugged Nia fiercely, whispering, Told you, Mom. She kissed his forehead, tears brimming. As they exit, Elias's voice lingered on the line. Judge, expect my office's brief by 5 p.m. And Derek, resign before I make it official. The doors swung shut behind Jamal and Nia, but the shock waves were just beginning. By noon, the story leaked. AG's son spared life sentence in Philly court, entrapment alleged.